Does the hiring of DeMeco Ryans impact the Texans' number 2 overall selection and perhaps drafting a quarterback? One important decision around here has been made. DeMeco Ryans is the head coach of the Houston Texans. We love that. But there are many important decisions that need to be made with this franchise. And finding a quarterback on top of what you believe is going to be the right head coach, it's just as important of a decision. In some cases, it can be more important because good coaches often can't win if they don't have a quarterback or they can't reach their ultimate goal. Before we get into the impact DeMeco may have, and we talk about the impact on the finding the quarterback that hiring has, I want to talk about my personal mindset. By the way, this is the Locker Room on YouTube. Like, subscribe, number one source for daily Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 in the Odyssey app, official home of the Texans. We got players, coaches, ownership. We're at every single game in the parking lot, tailgating, and in the actual locker room after the game talking to players. So subscribe right along with the Texans, whether you're a Texans fan or not. We're on top of this. But my personal mindset, and we've documented the trust issues with the Houston Texans organization for a long, long time, and they haven't deserved trust. It's been a rocky road the last couple of years, but it's amazing how one decision can kind of change things, because for a long time and way too long, the fans, the people, and the media types felt, right or wrong, that they were smarter than the organization. And the stuff that the organization was making, it wasn't a wait and see. It was they don't know what the hell they're doing. And the fans were actually smarter than the people making the decisions, specifically King Bill O'Brien and the POS, person of service, Jack Easterby. Like when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, you immediately knew that was stupid. When you gave Whitney Merciless the contract extension, you knew that was silly. You signed Randall Cobb, you signed Eric Murray. That was silly. You got used to kind of being smarter than the front office. And that's not ideal. That's not a recipe for success. And that's why the organization got to where it was. This one decision, though, this decision to hire DeMeco Ryans and the way in which it was executed, very, very quickly, the decision to fire Lovie Smith, the decision to interview 7 of the best candidates on the market, and then the decision to speed up the process to get your guy, beat out Denver, and beat out anyone else that was trying to get him. It was as well executed as possible, to the point where now, in the past, I would probably be, pounding the table, say you got to do this, this, this in the draft. I suddenly find myself trusting the process and trusting that in an important process, like deciding whether or not you want to take a quarterback at number 2, they might know what they're doing at this point. And that's just my own personal mindset. So in the past, like, let's say that they would have, made a hire that you didn't feel as good about. And let's say that the process was botched and the timeliness, et cetera, would have been wrong. Then you would immediately not really trust that they're going to make the right decision at number 2, whether it be quarterback or not. You would naturally have a healthy amount of skepticism. And I would find myself questioning, what the hell are they doing? That's changed now to the point where I am not as 100% married on having to get a quarterback for a number of reasons. You have a coach that has a 6-year contract. You have a coach that has a contract longer than the GM. And that coach is a defensive-minded coach. I'm a Bryce Young or bust guy. Me personally, I'm Bryce Young. Bryce Young's the only quarterback I like. I would have taken him number 1. I would take him number 2. I'm not as sold on the other guys. I'm also not a personnel guy. I'm not a scout like the guys who are going to have to make this decision for the Houston Texans. But I'm a Bryce Young guy. But I could be talked into now potentially taking Jalen Carter or Will Anderson at 2. Let's say someone hops over the Houston Texans and they take Bryce Young or they take the quarterback the Texans like, maybe it would make sense now to go with Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. Give DeMeco Ryans his Nick Bosa. Because let's pretend that the Texans value Will Anderson like people think of Nick Bosa, or they think that Carter can be the next Aaron Donald, but the next quarterback on their list is Kirk Cousins caliber. How desperate are you to get a quarterback, especially when you have a guy on a 6-year deal like DeMeco Ryans? How desperate are you going to be? And what is DeMeco Ryans' mindset going to be? I think if DeMeco Ryans thinks you're going to get a franchise quarterback, whether he thinks that Anderson is Nick Bosa or that Carter is Aaron Donald, he's going to go with the quarterback. But how is he going to look at that? That's going to be interesting. So to answer the question, how does the DeMeco Ryans hiring impact whether they take a quarterback or not? We don't know, but it definitely does. Because DeMeco Ryans is going to think differently than Jonathan Gannon. He's going to think different than Mike Kafka. He's going to think different than Shane Steichen. So he's going to have a different opinion, and Caserio is going to have to respect that opinion. Now, maybe they have an agreement where DeMeco just says, hey, just give me the best guy possible, and they're not working together as closely, and DeMeco's just going to have full trust. But naturally, when you bring in a coach, he's going to have some sort of opinion on a quarterback. Now, is he going to lean defense more so because he's a defensive guy? I doubt it, because he has to oversee the whole roster. And if you put your fate in the hands of a franchise quality quarterback, then your fate has a much larger shelf life than not doing so. So the tie is going to go to the quarterback. It's just really going to be a matter of what quarterback do they like. But what if the quarterback gets taken that they like? That's where you got to think about this Kirk Cousins / Bosa or Aaron Donald type of thing. Like, how much do you value a quarterback, especially when you have 2 first-round picks next year and the quarterback class could be better? Do you start looking ahead? Now, you're not going to try to lose games. You might go veteran. You might go the veteran quarterback route. That would probably be determined before the draft. So they can actually show us before the draft what they're thinking. Do they bring in one of these veteran guys? They'll show us that. I don't think they'll decide to run with Davis Mills. Maybe they'll even entertain that. You don't know what DeMeco is going to think, but he's going to have some sort of opinion. And if their guy gets taken, that's where stuff gets really, really interesting. And whether or not DeMeco likes a vet is going to be interesting as well. I keep hearing the names like Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance because of the 49ers connection. I just don't. First of all, if the 49ers are willing to trade Trey Lance after 2 seasons and not even seeing him out there, especially given what they gave up in the state of their quarterback situation, that should tell you all you need to know. That should tell you that something's wrong with Trey Lance. If Kyle Shanahan doesn't think he can fix him or figure something out. So that should tell you everything. Furthermore, if you saw Trey Lance play last year before he got hurt, it wasn't pretty. They were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. And speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo, I hear all this talk about, Jimmy Garoppolo. What if DeMeco Ryans likes Jimmy Garoppolo? John McClain said that this morning on Sports Radio 610. Look, I don't know who DeMeco does and doesn't like. I just find it kind of hard to believe that DeMeco Ryans is going to like Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers didn't like Jimmy Garoppolo enough to, after he took them to a Super Bowl, they didn't like him enough to believe in him, and they traded all those picks for Trey Lance. DeMeco Ryans Jimmy Garoppolo cost DeMeco Ryans a Super Bowl. Defense was championship caliber. Jimmy Garoppolo just had to make a couple of throws. It cost him a Super Bowl. I find it hard to believe that DeMeco Ryans is just going to be a Jimmy Garoppolo guy. Maybe that's me from like a far view. I find that very, very hard to believe that that's going to be the case. And we don't know what quarterback he's going to like. But another impact of the DeMeco Ryans thing. And look, there's a gray area when we talk about, who they like, what DeMeco's going to think. I can't speak in absolutes and say, which quarterback he's going to like, what he's going to want, et cetera. We haven't really even seen him and Caserio go through free agency, so we don't know anything about their philosophy. But if they like CJ Stroud, and this was a talking point that was brought up last year, if they like CJ Stroud, they're going to draft CJ Stroud. There's no more, we talk about the camps and the representation. CJ Stroud has the same representation as Deshaun Watson. There was a time in the past where maybe that would have been a hurdle, specifically at the quarterback position, maybe. Although I think that was kind of overblown from the very beginning. I don't think it was as big of a deal as a lot of people did. In fact, I was told that would not be like a huge thing, that maybe CJ doesn't like certain situations, but the Texans, it was not that situation even before DeMeco. But make no mistake about it. Players are going to want to play for DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is respected. And the Texans, a lot of the reasons that maybe people didn't want to come here, those are gone too. So if they like CJ Stroud, perhaps the biggest takeaway from all the possibilities at the quarterback position, they're going to get CJ Stroud. And he's going to want to come here, and he's going to want to play for DeMeco, and it's going to be the start of a new era. So those question marks that you had before about whether or not, CJ Stroud will want to come here, I can say with borderline certainty, and this isn't me pulling something out of nowhere, a very educated guess, CJ Stroud would be willing to play for DeMeco Ryans. So you do not have to worry about that again. I can promise you. Subscribe to the channel, like, spread, listen to me 10 to 2 Monday through Friday, Sports Radio 610, the Odyssey app. That is Central Time, since this is not a local show. This is all over the YouTube. Follow along for the Texans news. The impact of the quarterback, one decision down. DeMeco Ryans press conference tomorrow. We'll give you some live coverage there on Sports Radio 610 and on this channel. I'll have some exclusive stuff for you, as well as a live reaction. I'm going to go live after the press conference, probably about 9 p.m., and we'll talk about everything that was said and all the questions that were answered and all the people that were there. So personal mindset, feel better about the quarterback. The Bosa versus Cousins mentality, how desperate are they going to be for a quarterback? Does the fact that DeMeco has a 6-year contract impact that? The uncertainty of the relationship and dynamic between Caserio and DeMeco. What if the best player is there at 2? Do you decide to do that? What if their guy gets taken? What if DeMeco likes a vet? And CJ Stroud, if they like him and he's there and they like him a lot, it's not going to be a problem. Appreciate y'all. No matter what happens, no matter who they take, no matter what's said at the press conference, just remember, we're all in this together.